Hello, I'm Kai Lukoff, a PhD student at the University of Washington, and I'm presenting a paper titled From Ancient Contemplative Practice to the App Store, Designing a Digital Container for Mindfulness. This is joint work with my wonderful collaborators Ulrik, Stefania, Erika, Alexis, and Sean. So let's talk about mindfulness apps. Mindfulness has its roots in Buddhist practices that are over 2,000 years old. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who helped popularize mindfulness in the West, authored one definition of mindfulness that is common in both academic and popular discourse. Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Today, we're in something of a mindfulness moment in Western society, where mindfulness has become popular in schools, corporations, and even the military, where it has been found to have benefits for both physical and mental well-being. And at this time of COVID-19, more people than ever before are turning to mindfulness to manage stress and anxiety. Of course, there are now thousands of mindfulness apps, and some like Calm and Headspace have tens of millions of users. So how exactly is this tradition with thousands of years of history now being adapted to app stores? Scholars have expressed a concern that some mindfulness apps are a form of McMindfulness, a term for making money from mindfulness in ways that go against its core teachings. For example, one traditional mindfulness practice is mandala coloring, where skilled attention is applied to create intricate visual images out of sand. Prior HCI research has studied how mobile apps, like the one shown here, adapt this practice for mindful coloring, finding that they often use a form that is similar on the surface, but in actuality simplify the process so much that they eliminate the need for the skilled attention that actually trains mindfulness. The phenomenon of mindfulness raises the difficult question: what parts of traditional mindfulness practices should technology designers keep? One of the issues in answering this question is that it's not clear to what degree the voice of mindfulness teachers is included in the design of mobile apps. And so far, the perspective of mindfulness teachers is largely missing in HCI research too. However, mindfulness teachers are domain experts who regularly adapt mindfulness practice for a wide range of students and situations, and so they can provide a valuable perspective on how to adapt mindfulness for mobile apps. So this led us to the research question that I will focus on in this presentation. What do mindfulness teachers think of mindfulness-related apps? We started our investigation by gaining hands-on experience with mindfulness-related apps in order to identify important design patterns to ask mindfulness teachers about. Then, we conducted interviews with mindfulness teachers to understand their expert perspective. But let's begin with our hands-on experience. We cast a wide net to select a sample of 16 mindfulness-related apps that included a diverse sample of different activities, such as sitting meditation, coloring, and even gaming. For a description of our selection process, please see our paper. Then, as a team of researchers, we used each app for 1 week to gain hands-on experience with its features and design patterns and discussed. Our hands-on experience informed the questions we asked in our interviews with mindfulness teachers. So, what did we find? There were some clear cases of mindfulness. For example, the app Millionaire Mindset has a chapter on mindfulness in the middle of a course on getting rich. Finally, we found that mindfulness apps use many design patterns that are common in health and fitness apps, like streaks, badges, and levels. For example, in the app Aura, when you finish a meditation session, the app shows your progress towards the next level. But what does it mean to be level 3 at mindfulness? We decided to ask about design patterns like this in our interviews with mindfulness teachers. We took some of the design patterns that we thought might challenge traditional ways of teaching mindfulness and turned them into mock-ups to show to mindfulness teachers. We hoped that these paper mock-ups would serve as deliberate provocations to prompt teachers to talk about the values and principles that were important to retain in a mindfulness app. So let's now turn to the interviews that we conducted with mindfulness teachers. We interviewed 15 mindfulness teachers in the Seattle area who taught in the Buddhist, therapeutic, or yogic traditions. We asked them about their strategies for teaching mindfulness and their views on our mock-ups. We transcribed all interviews and used a 6-phase process of thematic analysis to generate codes and themes. We found 3 themes in the interview data. However, in this presentation, I will focus on only the first theme, the need to design a container for mindfulness. Teachers stressed the need to create a container, a learning environment in which people can practice mindfulness. This encompasses aspects of the environment that are both physical, such as seating and sounds, and non-physical, such as the tone and norms of the space. A quote from a teacher in the therapeutic tradition captures many of the attributes of a well-designed container. As a teacher, you set the container for the practice. For me, that means keeping it safe and limiting or minimizing external distractions. Moreover, teachers felt that these conditions for creating an offline space for mindfulness practice also applied to online spaces and mobile apps too. In particular, teachers' responses indicated that a container should be coherent, creating an experience of mindfulness practice that makes sense as a unified whole. 2 examples illustrate how this might be done. The first example is that instead of achievement, focus on process. Mindfulness practice emphasizes the moment-to-moment experience in the present, rather than reaching a goal. So teachers recommended avoiding designs such as a progress bar for levels, and instead using a design that suggests a process of development. For example, this might be a tree that grows with the student. The second example is that instead of social comparison, focus on social support. In mindfulness, teachers often talk about the dangers of the comparing mind, which compels people to judge themselves against others and often very self-critically. For instance, teachers felt that the leaderboard features we saw in some apps, in which students are prompted to compare themselves against others, might work in a fitness app or a language learning app, but did not fit in a mindfulness app, because mindfulness teaches acceptance of the present moment rather than judgment. So, instead of showing comparisons, a mobile app could prompt students to support each other. In the paper, we discussed 3 design implications. However, in this presentation, I will again focus in on just one, the importance of considering coherence in design. In mindfulness classes, the teacher creates a container for mindfulness practice. In mindfulness technologies, the designer assumes part of this important responsibility. Teachers repeatedly called out how certain design conventions in apps, such as gamification and social comparison, conflicted with the principles of mindfulness. This led us to focus on the idea of coherence in design, which we define as the extent to which the underlying principles of a technology and its features make sense together. I want to describe what we do and do not mean by coherence in design by contrasting it against the concept of consistency. On the one hand, design education stresses the importance of consistency. For example, in our design department at the University of Washington, we teach students to keep the color palette of an app consistent throughout. So instead of this mismatch, we want these consistent colors. As opposed to consistency, coherence is more conceptual and addresses the fit between a design solution and the underlying principles of the practice it represents. So, in this case, instead of an achievement metaphor of a progress bar, we want the growth orientation of a tree metaphor. In our case, the underlying principles of the design come from the teachings of mindfulness. But we expect that the concept of coherence in design might also apply more broadly, for example, to the design of a mobile app for a specific therapy or a spiritual tradition. So, to conclude, I'll leave you with 2 takeaways. When designing for mindfulness, create a container or learning environment that supports mindfulness. And second, consider coherence in design. So with that, I would encourage you to read the entire paper for more findings, and thank you for listening.